One of the most difficult things for a cook to hear is it needs something. Because what that means is then you have to play 50 questions about what it needs. You know, does it need more sugar? Does it need more salt? Does it need more garlic? Does it need more oregano or basil or whatever it is? And it would be so much easier if you could just say, there, it needs some more salt. But yet we've had that experience in our lives as well. How many times have we said, well, gee, I really don't feel well, but we couldn't point out to what it is. I mean, it'd be easier if we just said, oh, gee, I have a toothache, and that was that. Much in the same way, the woman with the hemorrhage in today's gospel doesn't know what's wrong. She's been hemorrhaging for 12 years and hasn't found a cure. You know, if you're hemorrhaging, you're exhausted all the time because you're losing blood, you're losing your red blood cells. And I knew a person once that it took him a half hour to recover from just dressing. It's that sort of illness where you just are tired and can't do anything. And so it would have been easier if she had had an arm missing or a huge gash. Then you could have pointed to it and said, that's why she has this blood leaving and that's why she's this way. But she doesn't know. And so she goes around and starts searching. She starts searching out all sorts of doctors, spending all her time, all her money, trying to find what's missing, what's wrong. And so finally, after all of this, she hears about Jesus. And she says to herself, if I could just touch his robes, I will be cured. And she goes off, and she does touch his robe and does get cured. But that's only part of the story. Because after that, she's willing to go back and be quiet. And never tell a person anything. Never tell a soul about her problem. Never tell a soul about how she was cured. Jesus, although, is walking along, walking to cure the child of Jairus. And yet he stops. He says, who touched me? And he goes along and says, who touched me? And meanwhile, the people around him, his disciples, are like, come on, you see the people around you. How can you say, who touched me? And yet Jesus stops and doesn't move an inch further until the woman comes out and makes her proclamation. Makes her proclamation of what's wrong with her. Makes her proclamation of Jesus' salvation. It's only then that Jesus goes along and cures, actually raises from the dead, Jairus' daughter. We are the ones who are that woman with the hemorrhage, because we know in our hearts there's something wrong. We might not yet have been able to put a name to it, but we know that there is something that is missing in our lives. We know that we need some sort of deep forgiveness for the wrong that we've done. We know that we need salvation. We know that we need hope. We need eternal life. We need all these things. And only Jesus Christ can provide. It is that which we are reaching out, to touch Jesus, to invite him into our lives so that he can provide the healing only he can give. And most of us who are listening to this have experienced that. But then far too many want to be like the woman who just then goes back and says nothing. Tells no one of their problems. Tells no one of the healing. Tells no one of the good news of salvation. And if that happens, Jesus will be stopped. Jesus will not go on to Jairus' daughter. Now, who's Jairus' daughter? Well, we all know them. They're the 2/3 of people who are not in our pews each and every weekend. There are our friends, our relatives, our family members who have lost the faith, who are dead, just like Jairus' daughter. And yet it's through Jesus Christ reaching out to them that they can be brought back to life, that their life of faith might be revived. But it's only through us being able to give witness to who Jesus Christ is, to what Jesus Christ has done for us in our lives, to the salvation that we have experienced, that allows Jesus Christ to work in and through us to raise the people we know are dead. We are all the woman with the hemorrhage. But will we be the woman of the hemorrhage who has been cured and proclaims the good news so that the Jairus' daughter in our lives will be raised from the dead?